This is One Broke Gamer Girl, and this is my review of Life is Strange Before the Storm, bonus episode, Farewell. I had really high hopes for this final piece of Life is Strange Before the Storm. This is the final time you as the player would be able to take on the role of Max and see how life was before things became so messed up in Max and Chloe's friendship. When it was announced that both of the original voice actresses would be back to reprise their roles because the voice actors' strike was over, this made me even more excited for this episode. I had release day off for this game, which is extremely rare. Played the episode from start to finish, so that means it's time for a review. In Farewell, you'll take up the role of Max one final time before she had powers and before she was trying to save Chloe every 5 seconds. This time as Max, you have a new dilemma though. It's trying to tell your best friend Chloe that you're leaving town. During this time, the main decision you'll have to make is whether or not you tell Chloe that you're leaving or if you just enjoy the day. Enjoying the day means playing pirates with Chloe and trying to discover the treasure that you hid years ago with her. This episode is short and has a bittersweet overtone to it that turns into just full-fledged sadness as it ends. Not really what I expected. Seeing how this was going to be the last time ever that you would get the chance to see Max and Chloe, it's already been confirmed that the second edition of Life is Strange will not include them. I was kind of hoping for some actual closure on their story. Just a brief scene of where they were depending on your decision of did you keep Chloe alive as a friend, did you keep Chloe alive as more than a friend, or did you save Arcadia Bay? I really thought that the game was going to go this route too, and the rest of the game, the actual story, would be a flashback of sorts. Sadly it wasn't, and I think that it had some missed potential to make an even more powerful impact than it did. This Farewell episode was super sad. Towards the end, things start to feel sort of familiar within the game. I don't want to ruin it for someone who hasn't played, and then suddenly you know what day it is, and that makes it even worse because you know what's about to happen. Other than that, this episode was shorter compared to the rest of the season, but I really enjoyed it. I liked seeing how Max and Chloe were before both of their lives became so different. Max is still basically Max, and Chloe is just a completely different person. It's both nice and sad to see her this way because you know what she becomes and what happens to her. You'll definitely need a tissue or two or the whole box. I probably started crying halfway through this episode and then didn't stop for the rest of the episode. Yes, I'm a super mushy girl that has a soft spot for Max and Chloe, but that's not the point. The storytelling in this episode is so powerful and emotion-driven that it's hard not to cry. Maybe you wouldn't cry throughout most of the episode like I did, but you'll still shed a tear or two. I think what hit home the most for me was that I know what it's like to try and tell your best friend that you're leaving town at that age. I never returned to my old neighborhood, found my friend, and discovered that I had the power to rewind time, but the rest of it was very real for me. You promise to write and call and still remain the best of friends because you have these cheap necklaces that are broken in half that say best friends, and you have one half and she has the other, but it just doesn't work out. You never write. You call every so often, but soon those phone calls stop, until one day you find the other half of your necklace in a pile of junk. So yeah, tissues. Lots of them. The playability of this game was the same as it was for the rest of the season. It was super awkward to just walk around, look around, and interact with objects. I didn't really expect this to be fixed for this final episode, and that's fine because I think this episode concentrated a lot on the voice acting, since the original actresses were back. I can forgive them for this, but I expect the second season of Life is Strange to have all of this fixed. The graphics were the same as the last episode of Before the Storm. I feel like they had improved, and it was nice to be able to snoop around Chloe's house one last time and explore the backyard one last time. I did want to say that I thought the facial animations have become a little better, and I hope this means good things to come for the future of this series. There are no trophies for this episode, none. I think this had a lot to do with the controversy when Life is Strange Before the Storm was first released, because there was a trophy for playing this episode and getting the Platinum Trophy for this game as a whole depended on it. The only problem was that this bonus episode was only available if you bought the deluxe edition, which not everyone bought. There was a whole thing, the trophy was removed, and now this episode has no trophies, the end. No multiplayer for this game as well, which is normal for the series and this game, so no complaints from me in that department. Overall, I give this episode a 5 out of 5. Here's what's great about it. The original voice actresses reprised their roles as Chloe and Max, adding more depth and emotion to this episode. This is your final time to play Max and Chloe and see what they were like before Chloe just grew up too fast and Max moved away. Not to mention the graphics that continue to improve and hopefully continue to do so moving forward. Here's what's not so great. Doing the main things that you have to do in the game, like walk around, look around, and interact with objects, is still very awkward and clunky. I really enjoyed this bonus episode and was glad that I purchased it with the deluxe edition. I didn't expect it to go in the direction that it did, and I didn't expect it to hit home as much as it did. I hate when I can relate to stuff like that. Anyway, this game seals the emotional bond that if you played this game, you might have with these characters and this little world of Arcadia Bay. While some things could have been done differently, it was a sad send-off to two iconic video game characters, but it wouldn't be Life is Strange if it wasn't sad. Anyway, even though this episode was super short, it's still worth it if you're a huge Life is Strange fan.